What is up, Bucs fans? Welcome back to another edition of the Pirate Parlay podcast here on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm your host, JC Allen, and we're in full draft swing. It is less than a week away. Thursday, the 26th, things kick off with the first round, then fall in the second and third with the final day, 5 through 7. I'm excited to get into it more. We've been breaking it down with some special guests. We've got a really special guest in the house today. I am so excited to bring in this guy. He is an absolute beast, which is a fitting nickname because he produces the beast every year. He's Dane Brugler from The Athletic. We'll have him on right after this break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
Welcome back to the Sick Podcast Network. This is Pirate Parlay, and I'm your host, JC Allen, and I'm not going to waste any time because this man's time is very limited. He's all over the place right now. You know him from The Athletic, from his draft monster, the beast. Let's bring him in, Dane Brugler. Dane,
hey guys, how are we doing?
How are we doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. No, this is a crazy time, right? It's hard to believe we're a week away. I'm ready for it to be here. I don't know about you guys.
Absolutely. You deserve some time off after that. Every year, I print out my Bible right here. I get it all ready to go. The beast, man. Just first, before we get into everything else, just kudos to you again. Another amazing year, scouting, breaking down of all these guys. And then to do a 7-round mock for every team is just you're a machine, man. You're an animal. I think you might need to battle Bert Kreischer for that nickname. But just talk to me about how this began, because I don't think I ever really got that backstory from you. How the beast began, and just the process of going through it when you start, and kind of grinding to get it finished.
I grew up in Northeast Ohio, and so I fell in love with the draft when the Browns came back to the league in '99. I was 12, 13 years old and just fascinated by the process. And so over the years, it went from a hobby to, okay, this is what I want to do with my career. And scouting, evaluation, I was able to I always wanted to work for a team, but then I got on the media side, and it's like, you know what, I kind of like this even more. I get to work on all 32 teams instead of a specific team, and able to build my Rolodex of contacts in the league and build my own abilities as a scout. And at my core, I'm a draft fan, and so I want to create a draft guide that I would want to read. And so I make sure it is the most comprehensive out there. There's no other resource that has almost 2,000 NFL verified testing information for almost 2,000 players. A lot of the background stuff in there is stuff that you're only going to find in this guide. But I try to make it accessible for everybody. So if you're a diehard, if you're a casual NFL draft fan, this is something you're going to be happy you have by your side for in the lead up to the draft, but then also all 3 days, and then even afterwards. It's even if you disagree with some of my rankings, that's fine. Trust your eye. But this is a resource guide. There's something in here that I think will appeal to you, whether it's the testing or the metrics or the analysis or the background. So try to make it as detailed as possible. It's an 18-month process. It goes back pretty far that start working on it, and just a nonstop fact-finding mission. And this is the result, and it's been pretty gratifying to share it with everybody. And the feedback's been awesome, and so now it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, 18 months. So you're already started on the next year's beast.
Inadvertently, I really am not trying to, but you just can't help it. If you're talking to a scout or a coach, and you pick up this random information that, okay, that's good to know for next year. You're talking to a player who's the best corner you faced. You're talking to a receiver, and it's someone that's still in college. So okay, I'm taking these notes. Or you're watching film, and who's this number 12? Oh, he's a sophomore. Okay, I need to hear these notes. And so inadvertently, I can't help but pick up a lot of tidbits that are going to help give me a head start as I get into next year.
One of my favorite things is the background, because everyone puts out their analysis, strengths, weaknesses, overall, whatever. But like, you go in depth and you've got some like really cool things about players, down to from nicknames to their childhood to just little tidbits about just, what they're like from like coaches, like leadership, workout warrior, doesn't leave, pushes everyone in the weight room. All these little things that you're not going to find everywhere else. And I absolutely love this. And what I think is so great about the Beast is it transcends outlets. And what I mean by that is, you know, in essence, we're all competing with each other, right? We're all competing to get the most clicks or get the most views, and also put out the best information. And it doesn't matter if they're from ESPN, NFL Network, you know, Bleacher Report, whatever it is. Everyone loves the Beast. Everyone's getting the Beast. Everyone's printing it out. I think I don't know if it was Jordan Schultz or whatnot. He had printed it out with a 3-ring binder like 4 hours after the thing was done. So, I mean, everyone, you know, appreciates the hard work and dedication you put into it. And I am one of those draft nicks, draft fans, freaks, sickos, if you want to call me. And your guide has been such a great resource for me just to kind of confirm what my eyes are seeing, because I'm a novice by any means, but it's been a great resource and great help when writing scouting reports and just, you know, kind of targeting players who I think specifically would fit the Buccaneers, which is what I focus on more than the big picture. And we'll get into that because you just put out your 7-round mock yesterday. Absolute for every team, by the way, the full 7 rounds for the entire draft, not just with the Bucs. It's just absolute incredible work. And let's just kind of talk about it first. First round pick was Nate Wiggins, cornerback. You know, you see some things about Nate, obviously blew up the combine testing wise, ran incredible 40, kind of pulled up. I think it was his groin and didn't really get to finish testing there. But you look at him, you know, absolute incredible cover man. I think some of the knocks on him were physicality in the run game and tackling. Just talk to me about why you selected him there at 26 for the Bucs.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the Bucs roster, and they need more corner help. And you know, I was a little resistant to put a corner here because I think you look at Coach Bowles, and I think he prides himself on being able to draft and develop the position. So I don't know that he necessarily thinks they have to use a first-round pick on a corner. Okay, they feel comfortable drafting second round, third round, fourth round, and he feels like he has the coaching to turn those guys into starters. So that would be my only resistance to this pick. But I also think Nate Wiggins is an outstanding player that they, at a certain point, it's like, all right, let's not pass on this guy. Let's upgrade our cornerback position with a young player who has size. I mean, he's got good height. He's over 6'1". Not the longest player in terms of arm length. Certainly doesn't have the bulk that you want, and that's where the question mark comes in. Just doesn't have a ton of mass on his frame. So holding up in the run game, holding up against the more physical receivers that he's going to see in the NFL, a little bit of a question mark. And that, when you're drafting so late in the first round, you're obviously sacrificing something, right? Or else the player would be gone and you wouldn't have a shot at him. With Wiggins, you are sacrificing a little bit of that size aspect. And can he hold up on the outside against NFL physicality? That is a little bit of the question mark. But a lot of these other areas, he checks the boxes. Physically, yeah, has the speed, has the athleticism. In terms of just the play confidence, he has that as well. Ball skills, he had over the last 2 years, 25 passes defended, 3 interceptions. He's a smart player. He has a very good feel for what the offense is trying to do. He reads routes well. So with Nate Wiggins, you have a player that not everyone's going to be on board with because of the size. But I think when you look at a team like the Bucs, where they're picking in the first round, if he's still around, I think he'd be on the short list.
Talent, right? At that point, you're picking best player available, and he certainly has the talent. The only other guy that I would kind of maybe throw hands up, and they just went 2 years in a row at the defense tackle, Jazon Newton, I think, and that's a guy who I think would be absolutely explosive there. But you can't argue, you know, at that point you're taking talent, and Nate Wiggins has it by the boatload. Can you teach up? You had the same issue as Ian McCollum. When you took him, athletic freak, had the best RAS score of any cornerback ever selected, and his knock was tackling physicality, and you saw him improve that last year. You can't teach ball skills, you can't, and cover skills, intuition, that stuff comes, from the player, and it's hard to really kind of teach that intuition and instincts into a guy, but you can teach him how to tackle. So I like that pick. Second round pick, I'm with you on the school of, Jordan Morgan was sitting there. I know Graham Barton and JPJ are 2 hot names to the Bucs right now, but I'm of the school of, you look at Light's track record, guards, centers, he finds them in the second and third round. You found one in the second round. Actually, I just did my guard preview, just dropped today, and I had Christian Haynes as my best fit between round 1 and 2. Assuming that, Fatanu and Barton are both off the board by then. I do like Jordan Morgan. I don't know if they'll burn 26 on him, so I went with Christian Haynes. This guy, I'll let you talk to him, but from my eyes, a little bit limited athletically, but very smart player, would be a really good fit in the zone concept scheme that they're going with. But what led you to Christian Haynes over maybe a guy like Cooper Beebe or Dominic Puny?
Yeah, and Haynes tested even better than I expected. I don't think he always plays up to that athletic testing because 6'3", almost 320 pounds, running in the low 5.0s. His 10-yard split was 1.75, 33-inch vertical. So the athletic testing was even better than we expected. But I think the number one takeaway from his tape was, and he's playing at UConn, so right. There are some games where they lost a lot of games, and even late in the fourth quarter when the game's out of hand, they have no shot of winning this game. He's still bearing dudes. I mean, he is playing through the whistle. It doesn't matter that the game's out of hand, the game's over. He is still doing his job and doing it with the same type of effort and enthusiasm that you want to see. And so you love that about Christian Haynes. And kind of similar to what we've said about some of these other guys. Goes to the Senior Bowl and he's outstanding. Had a really good week down there in Mobile. Goes to the Combine. Okay, check that box. He's moving pretty well. I've heard nothing but good things about his interviews in terms of just the football IQ and the way he carries himself, his understanding of scheme. So I think that at UConn they ran mostly a zone-based offense, and so I think there's a lot of things with Christian Haynes that matches up with what they could be looking for. You tell me right now, if the Bucs had to play a game tomorrow, who's the starting left guard?
Probably Suopita.
Right, and maybe they give him a chance to win that job and be that guy, but adding another guard to the mix, whether that's first round, second round, later on, I think it makes a ton of sense. And Haynes, I think, would be a really nice round 2 option.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do like Puny's game. Dominic Puny from Kansas is going to have to make that slide over from tackle, most likely to the inside. I do like him. I'm not as high on Beebe. After we go through your draft, I'll tell you a guy I'm really high on. I want to get your opinion on him. But moving into the third round, Austin Booker, the edge from Kansas. The Bucs need an edge. I don't think Latu or Verse will be in their range. I'm not a big Chop Robinson guy because I feel like he's more of a situational pass rusher, especially in what Bowles likes to have, what commands and what likes to have his guys do in that defense. So I'm out on those guys. Marshawn Nealon, someone who said that might sneak into the first round, is intriguing to me. He's got the tools that the Bucs like. Brought him in for official 30 visit, had a formal interview with the Combine, so he's a guy I'm keeping my eye on. But I'm working my way to edge rushers. Austin Booker, tell me a little bit about him.
One of the younger players in the draft. He is just 21 years old, just turned 21, redshirt sophomore. Doesn't have, if you really value body of work, he's not for you. He went to Minnesota initially, redshirted his first year, second year, barely got on the field. It wasn't until this past year he transfers to Kansas, and he wasn't a starter. He has one start in his career in college, but he played a lot of snaps this past year and made a big impact. I mean, he led the team in sacks, led the team in tackles for loss. He was really disruptive. And when you have a guy that's 6'4.5", has length, 34-inch arms, didn't test as well as I thought he would. I don't think he tested as well as he thought he would, based off of what he thought he was going to do. But he's still not a bad athlete by any means. He is a good athlete, and he has a surprising understanding of just the biomechanics of his body as he rushes the quarterback. Usually guys with this type of inexperience, it takes time for them to get there. That's promising that he already has a good understanding of the body posture and leverage and how to use his hands and the timing to get off blocks. He has that, even though he doesn't have ideal body mass, doesn't have ideal, play strength is more good than great, doesn't have a ton of experience. But I think you look at the base foundational traits, both athletically and then just the know-how, you get encouraged. And so I think third round, good value for him, a guy you add to the mix as a rotational pass rusher. And then hopefully by year 2, he's really competing for a starting job.
Yeah, a year in a strength and conditioning program sounds like it would help him tremendously, and some experience behind some top guys, and a great coach who's coached, the likes of Jared Allen and obviously Micah Parsons wouldn't help either. This one I was particularly happy with because I had him mocked in my latest mock in the same spot. Trevin Wallace, linebacker from Kentucky. Obviously, there's some familiarity there with new Bucs offensive coordinator Liam Cohen, but tested crazy. I feel like he reminds me a little bit of Devin White. Not, I don't think, as high of a ceiling as Devin could have, but this is where you want to take a guy like Devin White. He's got crazy sideline to sideline range. His instincts are a little bit lacking at some points, but I think he'd be a really good fit for the Bucs. I know some people have him dropping down into late day three. I don't think that's the case. I don't think he gets out of the 4th round. I'm right there with you. Talk to me about Trevor Wallace and what he can bring to the Bucs.
Yeah, if you ask me the over-under on where Trevor Wallace is going to go, I'd probably say, like 88. I think if he goes early to mid 3rd round, that wouldn't be surprising at all. Very good chance he goes late 3rd round, or if he does fall to day 3, he'll be gone pretty quickly because guys just don't move this way. Right. Really smooth, really athletic, like you laid out. Has the sideline to sideline range. When he sees it, he can unlock and go, and he gets there in a hurry. Now, him seeing it, that is where the coaching comes in. This is where get him to play with better anticipation, get him to better read his keys so he can diagnose and understand what's coming. So because he has the size, he's 6'1", almost 240 pounds, has long arms, has good speed, moves really well, has play strength. It's just the trait. He's not the full body of work just yet. He's not the sum of his parts. He has all these things that if you're going to put together a linebacker, you like a lot of these pieces, a lot of these tools. It's just he needs to put it together to be a more consistent and productive linebacker. But again, we're talking about mid 3rd round, late 3rd round. We're talking about a guy that is not a 1st round pick, not going to come in and you're expecting him, these big impact plays from day one. Give me the guys with traits, with athletic instincts who move the way I want these guys to move, and we'll try to coach up the rest. And I think that's what he brings, and why he has a pretty decent chance to be gone somewhere top 100.
Yeah, and you look at linebackers too, especially when you're talking about day 2 picks. Those guys usually take a year or two to really kind of get their bearings in the league before they're really become starters and impact players. Anyways, very rarely do you get a 1st round linebacker. But when they do come, they're usually pretty good, and sometimes they're not. I mean, look at, you got instances of the guy in Arizona, Zaven Collins, 1st round linebacker, Jamin Davis, Washington. Just, these guys take a little bit of time to really kind of get their feet under him. And your next pick is a guy who I really like. The Bucs haven't had any contact with him that we know of, but Audric Estime from Notre Dame. I mean, you wrote about him. It was one of the small blurbs that you did for each round. Just a powerful back. With a surprising frame. I mean, talk about this guy, with Rachaad White, his ability to go out as wide receiver, break tackles, speed, and everything that he brings. I think Audric Estime would be a perfect complement, as you suggested, kind of bring you back to that thunder and lightning days with Warrick Dunn and Mike Allstott.
Right, and yeah, it's complementary football. You get both these guys on the field at the same time, and really make defenses think about what's coming. Estime is 5'11 and a half, 221 pounds, but he just looks like a mini Hulk. I mean, he is just shredded, especially in his upper body. But he runs better than you expect. He's in terms of his decisiveness and in terms of just straight line speed, getting downhill. I mean, he tilts the field because he is always running downhill. He will run through you, but he can also stop his feet, make a cut, and be that inside-outside guy that you want. So I'm very pleasantly surprised when I finish his tape and see a guy that is as big as he is a physical player, but that's not only what he is. So I am very encouraged what he could be in the right mix. And I think with the Bucs, it makes sense when you have Rachaad White, who is going to be the starter and is so dynamic, especially catching the football. But you add another back to your backfield who complements him well, gives you more of that Leonard Fournette, gonna run at you, try to run through you, but also has a little more to him. In the 4th round, I like this fit a lot.
Yeah, I liked him too, watching him, studying him, and then just kind of again confirming what I think I'm seeing with what you're breaking down. Really like Cornelius Johnson, who you have in the 6th round here. I went between him and Xavier, guy out of Texas. And no.
Wide receiver?
Wide receiver.
Xavier Weaver, Colorado?
Xavier Weaver,
maybe?
yes. Sorry,
Okay.
Xavier Weaver. So I went between him, Cornelius Johnson, and Xavier Weaver as my best fit for the Bucs between round 5 and 7. I went with Weaver just because I think he offers a little bit more as a return man. But I really like Cornelius Johnson. What I've seen out of him, what I read out of him, what I watched out of him. Talk to me a little bit about him. A big outside guy that can work there, and kind of in tandem with Mike, with Godwin moving back into the slot, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of Godwin to Cornelius Johnson and what he does best. 6'3", 212. He's a good athlete. You don't come away from his tape saying, "Oh wow, this is a big play guy." But he's also in an offense where they relied on the ground game and they wanted to establish the run and live in the trenches, and they didn't use the outside receiver all that much. And when they did, it usually went to Roman Wilson as their explosive big play threat at Michigan. So I think Cornelius Johnson was really underutilized. Again, he ran 4.44, so he has speed. His 3-cone was under 7 seconds. He had a really good short shuttle. So 37.5-inch vert. He has the athletic tools. It's just I don't think he was fully, able to blossom as a receiver on the field in that offense. So again, we're talking 5th, 6th, 7th round, these late rounds. This is the type of player you want to take a swing on and say, I liked what I saw from him, but there might be even more that we haven't seen yet. And so, get him in our mix and let him work outside, and we might have something. So yeah, Cornelius Johnson and Xavier Weaver's a good player too. It's another guy with speed. He can work outside. He was productive. So yeah, I think this is a deep wide receiver class. We're going to see these guys go early. 3 in the top 10. We're going to see a couple more in the first round. We might see 12, 13, 14 off the board in the first 2 rounds. But it's a position that stretches as well. 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, late rounds. These guys, no matter where you are in the draft, there's going to be someone that I think you look at and say, oh, I like him. I think he'd be a fit for us. I think he makes us better. Cornelius Johnson could be one of those guys in the late rounds.
And then your final pick here at 246 in the 7th round. Again, a guy who I had in my mock draft there, finishing up, Trey Taylor, safety from Air Force. So I got 2 for 2 with you. So we'll see how that pans out. But Trey Taylor, Air Force, just a stand-up kid from everything that I've read from you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 6'1", 205. He's Ed Reed's cousin. So that never hurts. Have those type of bloodlines, and he's got a good relationship with him. So he's always bouncing things off Ed and just learning and being a sponge, that type of thing. You love the ball production. He had 3 picks this last year. It's something that showed at the East West Shrine game as well. During those practices, he was making plays on the football. You love to see that. He's kind of just a well-rounded guy. Good speed, good size. Maybe he doesn't have an A+ trait to him, but he's pretty solid across the board. And so, if you're looking for someone that you can trust, someone that defensive coordinators are going to trust executing his assignment, being out there, also be able to play special teams. This could be that guy in the later rounds. Kind of reminds me a lot of Damar Hamlin when he was coming out of Pitt, and obviously has been a good role player for the Bills over the years. So yeah, Trey Taylor, I think more than a few teams will be in on him in those later rounds.
I know I only got you for a couple of minutes, so I'm going to spit out some prospects. You tell me what you think about them. Some of them are favorites. Some of them are linked to the Bucs. I'm going to start with a small school special here for Jason Light with Mason McCormick. Talk to me about Mason McCormick. And then in subsequent, when you watch him, Isaiah Davis just pops out. He pops out every time you watch Mason McCormick. So talk to me about those 2 South Dakota State guys.
Yeah, it's funny because McCormick, I'll be honest, I didn't love his tape. I thought he looked stiff. I thought it wasn't great. But then he goes to the Shrine Bowl, and he looks fantastic. He looks like a different player. He goes to the Combine and tested just off the charts. He's 6'4", 310, runs in the low 5s, 35-inch vert. Everything across the board was outstanding. And so it's like, okay, what is going on here? We need to go back to the tape and try and figure this out. And it's a really interesting juxtaposition where you didn't love the tape, but then he tests really well. He knocks the draft process out of the park. And it's like, okay, how do we grade this guy when there's just that push and pull? He landed in the 4th round for me, and I think that for a team that's willing to bet on the athleticism, the guy, I mean, he's really has a ton of experience. He played 70 games in college as a 6-year player at South Dakota State, 2-year team captain, consensus All-American. So I think he's an easy sell in the war room once you get into day 3. Isaiah Davis, yeah, he's fun. He runs hard and he runs fast. He runs quick. He's one of these backs in day 3 range that is going to have a lot of fans. A lot of teams are going to look at him and say, yeah, this fits for what we want to be, because he can run different schemes. He's a high football character type of guy. Catches the ball fairly well. I think it's something that he can do even more once he gets to the NFL level. So yeah, that's a good call. South Dakota State's going to have quite a few draft picks this year. Big fan of Tyler Kraft this year or last year. This year with the running back, the guard, the left tackle. They have a tight end that'll be a PFA, twin receivers that'll be PFAs. So yeah, South Dakota State will be very well represented in this draft.
So a tight end, you can't adjust every position in every draft, but you don't have a tight end selected for the Bucs. Assuming they take one round 4 and on, who are some of the guys that you like? I'm a big Cade Stover fan myself. Mm-hmm. I know they had a lot of communication with Ben Sinnott. I just don't see the blocking there, but talk to me about some of the tight ends that might be a good fit for them.
I'm a big fan of Tip Ryman from Illinois, 6'5", 270 pounds. Doesn't have, the production that jumps out at you just because he wasn't used in that way, but he can block and he will get after it in that way. But he can also, there's more to him as a pass catcher, and he tested off the charts at that size, 270 plus pounds, running in the 4.6s. He jumped really well. His 3-cone was outstanding. So for a team that really values the tight end position and developing these guys, I think Tip Ryman's going to end up being a steal.
Had a top 30 visit with the Buccaneers, and I had him in my last mock draft, so I will take that. Let's just talk about another guy who I think you have like a 4th, 5th round grade on, Mohamed Kamara. I think for teams needing an edge rusher, once you start to get into late day 2, early day 3, I think he's a good, the production's off the charts, obviously there. But talk to me about him a little bit. I think he could be a sneaky guy in quite frankly, a position group that's not very deep this year.
He's undersized, and that's the thing. You have to be okay with the size, and what's his ceiling as a player? Is he always going to be that sub-package player? Can he hold up versus the run on the edge? That's what you have to figure out with Kamara. But at the very least, he's going to add another element to your pass rush arsenal as a sub-package guy, as a rookie, and then you kind of see it from there. But yeah, 6'1.5", just under 250 pounds, relentless. I mean, he gets after it. He was a team captain. The coaches rave about him. Really productive over the last 2 years. I mean, he was 33 tackles for loss. He was well over 20, close to 25 sacks. So a lot of the ingredients that you're looking for in a kind of a part-time pass rusher, Mo Kamara has. So who knows? He might even sneak into round 3 because a team is looking for that type of player. But if not, I think he'd be excellent value once you get to day 3.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more question, then have you promote yourself and get you out of here. But if you're like many, when you're doing mocks, you've got like a name there, and then you take it out, and then you got another name, and then you take it out. So, who are some of the names that you had for the Bucs in your 7-round mock that you're like, I can't put them here, or I got to put them here? But who are some of the other prospects that you were trying to fit in there, or if maybe they had an extra pick from a trade down or something like that that you would try to sneak in there for them?
Yeah, well, I know specifically with that first round pick, it's tough at that point because a lot of those teams I think need kind of the same things. I think Jackson Powers Johnson would be from Oregon. I think would be a really nice fit there at 26 with the Bucs. But he ended up going, and actually I had that initially, but then as I'm going through it, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put him to the Packers. Let's so at 25 he's off the board. So Jackson Powers Johnson no longer a possibility at 26 in my mock draft. You're looking at some of these other corners. If they don't want, if Nate Wiggins, if the size maybe scares off the coaches, would they go a Kool-Aid McKinstry, a guy that maybe has a little bit more size to him, not the same speed, speed, but good enough speed. Football IQ's high. Could they go opt for a different direction at corner? Cooper DeJean was off the board already in this scenario, but another player who I think could be in that mix. So, yeah, there are definitely a few names that, Johnny Newton as well, a few names that I considered there in the first round.
As far as, and I know I said last one, but I got one more. As far as when you're like looking at the situation for them at 26, did wide receiver ever come across your mind? Because when you look at the outside of quarterback, you got offensive left tackle primarily, left tackle, edge rusher, cornerback, and wide receiver, the premium positions in the NFL. Did wide receiver ever cross your mind there? Was there anyone that you're kind of like, maybe I'll put him there? Because I feel like when the Bucs, if you're in this situation where you are, where Barton's gone, where the edge rushers are gone, where DeJean's gone, where JPJ's gone, now it's like, okay, well, who's the best guy? And if it's a wide receiver, then so be it.
Yeah, and I think that's fair to if you have a first-round grade on a receiver that's still there, it'd be tough to pass. I think with the way the makeup of this offense is and the depth of this wide receiver class, it would just be a hard sell to go that unless you really believe in the player. If he is a first-round graded player and you are all in on that player, I get it. You stick to your board, you stick to your scouting, but this is a deep class, and you feel good about the receivers that you can get second round, third round, and then even into day 3, like we talked about. So I would be surprised, but again, all these draft boards look a little bit different, and I don't think a Brian Thomas is going to make it that far. But if they believe that highly in an Adonai Mitchell or a Ladd McConkey, then I get it. You want to make your offense more explosive, you add talent like that. So I think it's maybe not likely position they could go, but you can't completely rule it out.
And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find your amazing work. Not that I've already given you your flowers already because you deserve them, but go ahead and let them know where they can find out everything that you got going on.
You find me all my stuff at The Athletic. You just need a subscription and you get the draft guide included. So it's I think a more than worthy thing to sign up for, because the draft guide, it kind of pays for the subscription itself. And like you said, 7-round mock drafts up, plenty of other stuff coming up here before the draft. So I don't think you'll be disappointed by the draft coverage we have going on.
Not at all. Never disappointed. Always here, right by my side during the draft. I appreciate the time you carved out for me today. Good luck. I guess get working on the next beast, because it's already
always working
right after this. And I'll talk to you soon, my friend. Have a good one.
All right, take care. Thanks.
Yes. There you go. Dane Brugler, author of The Beast over at The Athletic. Guys, I know you're like, oh, paywall, but I mean, they've got awesome deals going on all the time. $1, for the entire year. Definitely check it out. The Beast is such an incredible resource. And again, not just for strengths and weaknesses and overalls, but really player background. You kind of get to know them and a feel for them as a person. And obviously, if you guys have watched the current or listen to Jason Light speak, they're looking for high character guys who love football, guys who are passionate about the game. And in that background area, you really kind of find out how passionate these guys are. And it's easy to say, oh, well, I don't know about this guy, or I don't know about that guy. This guy certainly fits. So definitely check out everything Dane's got going on over at The Athletic, his Twitter handle. Check out what we've got going on over at Bucs Game Day. I am doing myself, so bear with me a day. I just put out my guards. Like I said, I'm previewing every position through the draft, besides specialists, because you got Chase and you got Jake. You don't need a specialist there. But I will be positioning every preview and then giving my best fits for round 1 and 2, round 3 and 4, round 5 and 7. We'll see how right I am, how wrong I am. You guys can roast it, toast it, boast it, whatever you want to do. Check it out. We got tons of good content over there. Tons of good content over here at the Sick Podcast Media Network. Check out, we did a little player profiles over here earlier in the week on Pirate Parlay. Check those out. John Vogel's doing his thing over at the draft site for Sick Media. We got tons of stuff coming up. After the draft, we're going to start getting some players, start getting some coaches on here. And really just kind of up in the coverage and up in the ante over here. So I appreciate you guys always for tuning in. That's going to do it for me. Another episode here of Pirate Parlay on the Sick Podcast Network. We're out of here.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.